In today's video, I'm going to discuss about the Neolithic Age in Indian subcontinent. The rough estimation of the time period in which Neolithic settlements were existed in Indian subcontinent is from 5000 BCE to 800 BCE. This was the time when in different regions or different parts of Indian subcontinent, we see the emergence of habitation, and these habitations are characterized by domestication of plants and animals. So the earliest Neolithic settlements in global context can be found in northwestern part of Indian subcontinent and also in West Asia. From Balochistan, we find the earliest remains of Neolithic age. Mehergarh, Kilegul Muhammad, Dam Sadat, Johb Loralai, Rana Hundai, Gumla, Rahman Dheri are some of the sites from Balochistan that exhibits evidence of continuous human settlements in Neolithic Chalcolithic age. In fact, even we see the continuation of human settlement till the beginning of Harappan civilization, and many of these sites were contemporary of Harappan civilization. So if we look at the important sites such as Mehergarh exhibits some really important evidence of Neolithic age. In the earliest phase of Mehergarh, actually Mehergarh is that place where people continued to live till Chalcolithic age, and even they were contemporary to Indus Valley civilization. And this particular site can be divided into 8 different phases. Of these 8 different phases, the early 3 phases are associated with Neolithic age. That means that from the early 3 phases we find pottery, tool types, and the kind of habitation or kind of residential remains that are found. These exhibits the presence of Neolithic age or the presence of Neolithic people. So basically the first phase of Mehergarh, which is a ceramic, that means people did not use pottery in the first phase, but in the second and third phase people used pottery, and these potteries were both handmade and wheel made. And here people also domesticated domesticated animals, and they also consumed wild animals. So we find bones of both domesticated animals as well as wild animals. We have also found remains of houses, food grains, bricks, and burials. So all this evidence clearly indicates that people were started living in one particular area by this time. So it doesn't mean that hunting gathering ceased to exist. There were still groups of people who lived like hunter and gatherer, but there were some people who started settling down and living in one places. That Mehergarh exhibits these evidence that people here were building houses and living in one particular area for a longer period of time. And the reason was that they were doing agriculture and they were also domesticating animals. And to facilitate agriculture and to help the animals getting domesticated, they had to live in one particular area. So we find evidence of these practices, and we also see that they were making bricks to build houses. So all this clearly indicates that in this particular time period people started living in one area. So contemporary to Mehergarh and also located in Balochistan is another site, Kilegul Muhammad. Kilegul Muhammad is also this is another site which was inhabited by people both in Neolithic age and in Chalcolithic age. So here also we see different phases, and just like Mehergarh, Kilegul Muhammad also was a ceramic in the earliest. At the beginning, people did not use pottery here, but in the later phases people started using pottery. So the pottery, when they started making pottery, the most important or well-known pottery of Kilegul Muhammad is Quetta ware, Faiz Muhammad grey ware, Hakra ware, and Nal pottery. There is also evidence of irrigation system from Nal sites. So the findings from Kilegul Muhammad indicates that people were doing agriculture in later phases, and they were also using irrigation technology to facilitate agricultural activity in that region. So these are some of the important findings from Balochistan area, and these are not all. Actually there are many other sites that are available from Balochistan area, for which you may look at some important books like Upminder Singh's A History of Ancient and Early Medieval India. So that will help you to study all the different sites that are in existence in Mehergarh, also in Balochistan area. So in case of central India, from the Vindhyan fringes, we see some other sites that were in existence in this time, and you have to keep in mind that all these different Neolithic sites that were in existence in Indian subcontinent, they were not necessarily contemporary. The earliest or the oldest sites are available from Balochistan, and the sites that are available from Vindhyachal range are not so they are not contemporary, they are recent. So in Vindhyachal range, we find some sites such as Chopani Mando, Koldihwa, Mahagara, Kunjun. In some of these sites, there were continuous inhabitation from Mesolithic times till historical period. These sites carry evidence of stone tools, pottery, and remains of food grains such as rice. From Kashmir also we have some Neolithic settlements, and in fact earlier, before Neolithic age, people perhaps did not live in Kashmir because of the climate, that Kashmir had a very cold climate, so people found it difficult to live here perhaps. So the earliest evidence that we have about human settlement in Kashmir is from Neolithic age, and Kashmir is also relatively recent compared to the Balochistan sites. And from Kashmir we have sites such as Burjahom, Gufkral, Olchibag and Pampur. Of these, from Burjahum and Gufkral, we find evidence of pit settlement. That means there are some pit remains that have been found, and it seems that people lived here, and also there are some evidence of hearth outside the pits, and also some storage pits near the dwelling pits. So it indicates that perhaps because of the climate, because of the cold climate, people prefer to live in pit dwellings. Besides, we have also found evidence of bone tools, stone tools, pottery and animal bones. Death rituals were also there, so they buried their dead through inhumation, and in case of primary burials and secondary burials. In case of primary burials, death was buried, and in case of secondary burial, the dead body was exposed for wild animals and the remains was buried. And we have also found some evidence of grave goods. That means whenever the dead was buried, with the dead body, some goods were buried. And in one or two instances, pet dogs were also buried with the dead. From Kashmir, we find these evidences. So it indicates that these different death practices were prevalent in Kashmir. If we look at Bihar and parts of eastern India, here we have sites such as Chirand, Sanaur, Chechar Kutubpur, Maner, Taradi, and from these sites we find many different kind of evidence which indicates that people continued to live in Neolithic age, and even in it was not limited to Neolithic age. Even after Neolithic age came to an end and society evolved into Chalcolithic or historical phase, people continued to live here. So from Chirand and all these other sites, we see important evidence of rice cultivation. So in case of Balochistan area, people mostly consumed wheat as their staple diet, and in eastern India we see people consumed mostly rice, and along with rice they also consumed some other kind of food grains which includes pulses, lentils. Besides, we also have some pottery which include red, black and grey ware. Different varieties of beads have also been found. So all this evidence from Bihar and from eastern India indicates that people here were also enjoying some kind of craft work in the form of bead making. We also find remains of houses from these eastern Indian sites. And if we look at southern India, the Neolithic age in southern India is a little bit different from rest of Indian subcontinent, and they are the most recent one also. Like from around 3000 BCE to 1000 BCE, people lived in southern India, and they had these characteristics of Neolithic age. So in southern India, we see a unique tradition of dung burning, and which is evident from the ash mounds that are available in different regions in southern India. And from Utnur, Kubgal, Kodekal and Pallavoi, we have found some ash mounds. These ash mounds indicate that they were burning cow dung or cattle dung that they had domesticated. So this is an important finding from southern India. Besides, there are other sites that are available from southern India, like from Wadgal, we find evidence of use of microliths, and there are also some storage pits. Erekanath, one carbonized Erekanath have been found. There were urn burials and stone burials, some jewelry which were made of terracotta and stone beads. Animal and human figurines made of terracotta have been found. So the findings from Wadgal indicates that people were mostly dependent on animal husbandry rather than agriculture. In fact, from all the different sites that are available in southern India, it seems that rather than agriculture, animal husbandry was an important occupation for people. So in case here, we see that the potteries were coarse and handmade. Mostly handmade potteries were used in southern India. And also the findings of different burial practices indicates that these were predecessors of the megalithic phase that came into existence in southern India after Neolithic Age. Because we have evidence of stone burials even in Neolithic Age. So from Budihal, which is another site from southern India, we have found some ash mounds, and along with that remains of houses, animal bones, butchering area, and so all these different practices indicates that animal was the most important wealth, or domestication of animals, domestication of cattle was the most important occupation for people. So basically they used to burn the dung of these cattle as some kind of ritual practice, and they also consumed the animals, and these animals were basically their source of sustenance. So they also practiced some amount of agriculture, but mostly they were cattle herders. So this is the survey of the sites that are available from different areas in Indian subcontinent from Neolithic Age. So what you have to remember is that the Neolithic Age in different parts of Indian subcontinent is not contemporary. The oldest sites are available from Balochistan, and the most recent sites are available from southern India. And the most important development of this particular time period is the beginning of agriculture and animal husbandry. So people started living in one particular area for a longer time because they had to do agricultural activities. And another important development of this particular time is that people also started using different kind of craft work, like already from Mesolithic Age we see a faint beginning of making of potteries, and in Neolithic Age we see potteries becoming very widespread, like more and more communities started using potteries. So potteries became very common. So along with that, by the time the Neolithic Age came to an end, we also see an important development. Very few people were reliant on animal hunting. So they were basically dependent on agriculture by the end of Neolithic Age. So a close understanding of Neolithic age help us to understand how people transformed, or how people transitioned, or the culture transitioned from Neolithic Age to Chalcolithic Age.